Hey there, it's Andrea, and welcome to the Voice of Influence podcast. Today I have with me Amber Vilhauer. She is the CEO of NGNG Enterprises, which stands for No Guts, No Glory. It was founded in 2007 out of a passion to lift up those with an impact driven message. They've served thousands of authors, speakers, coaches, and business owners globally through branding, website design, bestseller book launches, and online support, all things that are incredibly important to authors. Welcome to the Voice of Influence podcast, Amber.
Thank you. I really appreciate being here and having the chance to communicate because I think influence is a very important piece that we all need to be more mindful of moving forward. I think people don't recognize just how much influence they have in any given moment. So I'm happy to be here to consciously talk about it.
That is very interesting. Well, before we dive into your business and such, like what are you seeing when it comes to influence as you're bringing it up? People have more than they realize.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, we feel like we get to hide behind a computer screen a little bit. And so, what I observe is sometimes people are more reactive, they're more vocal. They would say things in social media, let's say, that they probably wouldn't say if they were standing right in front of you face to face. And I think that it almost like desensitizes us. And I'm here to say, no, you need to be aware of how you present your energy online too. And, every comment, every post, there's a responsibility that comes with that. And what do you want to do with the responsibility that you have? For me, I take it very seriously. So everything I put out there, I really think, am I being my highest and best self? Am I being the leader that I would want a 12-year-old girl to see? Am I being the leader that my team would want out of me or that my son, my 6-year-old son would want to see online? So I think that we have a lot more influence than we realize. And I just want to be the advocate for people using that influence for good.
Oh, I love that. I've thought a lot about this too, even just for myself and trying to decide what I'm going to talk about online and what I'm not.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
so like at some point early on, I just decided it. I don't want to push political agenda as much as I want to push healthy influence and how we talk to each other. So
Think,
like I
yeah,
put that over any kind of politics. So I just decided I'm not going to comment on politics. I want to comment on how we're talking and
correct.
how we're moving forward together. It's difficult though, because there's certainly
I know.
examples that I could certainly pull from to explain things. And I don't know that I've got the right answer on that. It's an interesting thing to have to really consider about what you're going to be intentional about doing, especially as a leader of a business. What other thoughts do you have about this?
Well, I just know that in 2020, when everything happened, everything unfolded between the election and the pandemic, and just our world changed. People really woke up and they didn't know who to trust anymore. And I observed how much that shifted the online world. I mean, the world of internet marketing, in which I have lived in and led for many, many, many years, I watched as it shifted. Now, I was actually happy about the shift because I think people were just in a bit of a sleep up until that moment. And now I think people woke up and they thought, wow, what am I going to do with the way that the world is right now? And some people didn't handle that very well and they were very emotional and reactive or, whatever their path was. But for me, I finally got to use this as a platform to share the message that's in my heart. And that is, wanting to get people back to a place of connecting, true
Mm.
human connection, Andrea. That is really the purpose beneath all of the work that I do. So, yes, on paper, I build websites and launch books and do marketing and all sorts of cool, fun things that I'm totally obsessed with. But beneath that, my real purpose here is to get people connecting with one another again. And so I've actually done my own research and deep dive into, well, how can you create human connection, especially in a landscape where there is such distrust? And we're almost conditioned now to automatically assume the worst in each other instead of the best.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, I have really lived in the fire of life. One of my core values is lean in. And so when there's a challenge or an obstacle, I lean in that moment. I don't cower away or back away or try to avoid it. I want to learn from it. I want to grow. And then I want to share that knowledge with people around me. And so for me, I think a valuable part of being connected to our community, because we really are better together, right? And the answer is not to self isolate and be against one another. We have to come back into common ground. So, in order to do that, you really have to remain open, which means, yes, you're at risk of being hurt. But that is the only way to connect with others is to be open. And so I choose that no matter the pain I've experienced, I choose to remain open. I choose to remain to believe the best in people. So if somebody does have a nasty thing to say politically or otherwise, I've conditioned that my first reaction to that is, okay, that person must be experiencing pain,
Mm,
wherever it's coming from. And I think that they are sharing that in the wrong way. Okay, but that's my opinion. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to engage in that same behavior. And instead, I'm just going to either ignore it if I don't think they're going to get it. Then there's no point in going into an exchange because that's unconscious at that point. Or I'm going to choose to cast an opinion that's not coming from my own reactivity or victimhood or anything else. I'm going to choose to be that powerful influencer, right? And use my voice to share that it's okay to have a difference of opinion, but we can connect on values. And that's the last thing I want to say is that if you want to be somebody who's really open to positively influencing humanity, be really clear on what your core values are and let those values be the language in any response or training video, the way you're leading your team, no matter what it is that you're doing, amplify those values. And for me, lean in, better together, meaningful connection, unwavering excellence, and deeply fulfilled. Those are my core values. And so in everything I share, I'm going to be an example for that and hope that other people connect with that. And then we can, really start to shift the conversation into something that's more conscious and productive.
mm, really good stuff there. Okay, so can you tell us a little bit more about your company? Why did you get started with NGNG Enterprises?
Yeah. Well, I sold Cutco when I was in college. So that's high-end kitchenware for those of you that don't know. One of the best experiences I could have had in my whole life, Andrea,
Oh,
because before that, I was a very shy, introverted, insecure person trying to find my way in the world, trying to see if I had any value to offer. And that organization really woke me up. And I didn't even realize I had an entrepreneurial spirit until that job in college. And then as I kind of got as far as I could into the company, it was about 5 years in, and I was responsible for a lot of things and I was doing a really great job, but I just knew intuitively there was something else out there for me. As sort of a stepping stone and a random one at that, I found myself running this event in Denver for a couple of people that were hosting. And the event basically taught entrepreneurs how to get money into their business and how to market online. So this is back in like 2005. And I'm just a young 20-year-old squirt. I had no idea what I was just there, did know how to run the event. So that was, it was successful. Um, but when I was there, some of the top internet marketing experts of all time, still to this day, were speaking on that stage. And they were talking about AdWords and SEO and persuasive copywriting. And I thought, now this looks like a challenge. And I love a good challenge. And so I went home and I actually taught myself code and I built my own website. I started blogging about the things I was learning about strictly out of passion and intrigue. That was it. But this woman in Canada reached out and said, I've been following your blog and I was wondering if you could help me manage my guest blogging website. And I said, yeah, I mean, I guess I could. I don't know. Again, I had no business plan, no intent. I was just doing a passion. And so I looked at it as a side project until more and more people started coming in. Word of mouth kicked off. And 15 years later, here we are. And so it's kind of a strange start. But along the way, pretty early on, a friend said, you should file an LLC. And I said, what's that? Where do you do that? That's how much I knew about starting a business. I called it NGNG, standing for No Guts, No Glory, because it's a phrase my mom used to say to me all the time growing up. And I thought, what better phrase to stand by when you're facing your fears and getting your message out into the world? And over the years, my clients have loved that name, and so have I. And honestly, Andrea, it's the most rewarding, fulfilling thing I could have ever imagined for my life because we get to wake up every day and take some of the most amazing thought leaders and human beings on the planet and pump them full of empowerment and validation and help them learn how to really activate their voice in a meaningful way. And then set up business operations so that they're out of the weeds in their business and they can amplify that message and profit to sustain the business and feel deeply fulfilled moving forward as they impact their industry. So, as what started out as a hobby ended up being one of the greatest, most meaningful pieces of my entire life. And we've shifted industries and it's really amazing. I love it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Congratulations. So, at what point did you start bringing on team and can you tell us a little bit about the growth trajectory?
Yeah. So it had to start right away because there were some design needs and some web needs. I actually reached out to a woman that my sister hired to do a logo. And I said, by chance, can you help me do some web design? And she said, sure. Joni was my first hire and she's still with us today. So she does all of our logos, which is really amazing. And over the years, you just find a developer here and a designer there, an account manager, and it just sort of naturally, organically grew. And so every year we've grown. And Andrea, I continue to feel like I'm such a non-traditional business owner because I never had this vision of like, I want to scale to 100 million and have 1,000 employees and conquer the world. I never had that itch. I just wanted to help people and I knew that I could. So, as long as we were profitable, cash positive, I've never been in debt. I've never had investors. I'm very picky about that piece particularly. But other than that, it was just about the clients and sharing this gift with team members, this gift of love and fulfillment and excellence. Like, how cool that we all get to experience this together. And so, year over year, we started adding a team member or two here and there. I actually hit a sort of ceiling to my growth about, I would say, 5 years ago or so. And I knew that the only way to bust through that ceiling would be to get out of every single conversation and decision in the company. So I dared to hire a COO and to get out of the weeds. And when I did that, that's when we hit the Inc. 5000 list. So we had 85% growth 2 years in a row. It was crazy,
That's awesome.
absolutely crazy. And so I learned a lot and it was a really fulfilling time as well. So now I'm at this place of, okay, I got all the badges that I wanted. Like, now what do I want to do? And so I'm really looking at how can NGNG spend the next decade building an outrageous legacy? And what does that mean? And who do I want as part of that conversation with me?
Hmm.
So it's a very different stage of business that I'm really excited to be in.
Hmm. Can you tell us a little bit more about that transition, bringing on a COO and what that really, like what practically did that look like for you guys?
Well, so I onboarded Susan and she's still our COO today. And it was scary. I'm not going to lie, Andrea, because when you have to let go of that control, you are making decisions based on things you haven't experienced before, or maybe you don't have knowledge about. Now, I could have said the same thing back when I was new in business, didn't even know where you file an LLC, right? So I think that's just been my journey the whole way through. And I am such a hard worker and I am well researched and I will always see things through and I will always take care of people. So it always kind of worked out for me. But now the stakes were just dramatically raised. And at this point, you're going into territory where you don't fully know all the things about all the things. And it's growing so quickly that you are forced into a position of letting go. And, so what that looks like is transferring knowledge to one person and then hoping that information gets transferred properly to the next person and next person and next person. Now, we've all played that game of telephone when we were kids. So it works out similarly in business if you're not really careful. And so what we did is to try to have a safeguard against that is we became like absolutely obsessed with documentation. Anytime we would learn something, we'd put it into a document. I have more documents than probably any other business at my size. But it's really been good to fall back on and to have transparency and accountability across the company. And it looked like having other people hire team members instead of just me. That was also a really hard one because I wanted to make all of the hiring decisions. And I have a really fine tune understanding of who people are very quickly.
Mm.
I spent the first 20 years of my life not saying very much. And so I became like this hyper aware observer. So I can see things that most people can't. And that was always one of my best skill sets in terms of interviewing. But when I transferred that, piece onto somebody else, that wasn't there. So I did have a lot of learning opportunities, I would say, some very painful, in thinking that other people saw a situation the way that I did or approached it the way that I would, but then they didn't. And then how to address a document from a completely different vantage point than what I thought I had to address a document as. So there's, of course, a lot that could be said in general there, but it was definitely a lot of learning, letting go, trusting, learning, accountability, learning, trusting, letting go, kind of this ping pong match back and forth. But it somehow worked out.
Hmm. What, since your business is about helping people launch books and online presence and that sort of thing, marketing, I'm wondering if you have advice for, or what advice you would want to give to the business owner who maybe in the back of their mind is thinking about writing a book. Why should they consider it? What factors would you say they should consider when thinking through whether or not to write a book
I
or
think you
which book to
absolutely
write?
should. Period. End of story. Do it. Because a book gives you a really great reason to accomplish all sorts of things in your business. A book kind of on the front face is going to establish your credibility and authority in your industry, right? People think, well, if you have enough to fill a 60,000 word book, you must know what you're doing. Now, there are other companies that challenge that by doing a book in a weekend or a book overnight. And then there are a lot of books that flooded the marketplace that have little to no substance, which is definitely a bummer. I don't align with that. I understand it, but I'm more of, if you're going to write a book, make it something that people really want to read and they really want to share. They want to reread it every year because it's so valuable. Um, so I think that's really an opportunity to transform people's thinking and behavior. So again, influence, I think it's a really important responsibility. But when you have a book, it's going to lead to more speaking engagements, higher speaking fees. More people are going to want to interview you on their podcast, which means you're getting exposure to new markets. You're growing your following faster, which means that now you have more people in your platform in which to convert them into sales, customers. So there's just all sorts of reasons why you would want to write a book. And I think strategically, from a business building standpoint, it's a great reason to accomplish a lot of objectives. When I first start working with the client, number one thing I'm going to look at is, let's fix your platform, because most people don't have a very strong platform. What I mean is, it starts with your website. It's not just a place for some content and your last photo shoot. Your website is an opportunity to emotionally connect and influence somebody. So take that seriously, right? You have an opportunity to really express those core values and to create transformation where people land on the site and think, whoa, what is this? Something feels different about this. So they actually want to dig deeper and engage with your content and set up that call with you. Most people are totally missing the mark on what their website could be doing for them. As an extension out from that, you have your marketing platform. This is another area where most people are really missing the mark because most people don't like social media. So they put out content that isn't even very good because it's obvious they don't like what they're doing and they're not present to it. and it's not shifting anything. So like, don't do it then. My work, Andrea, is when I'm working with an influencer, I'll say, listen, you have an opportunity to change lives in this conversation, in this dialogue online. This isn't just a one-way channel for you to spew how-to content. This is a channel to inspire and wake up your audience and to get them to believe in themselves and to take action. Like, this is an incredible opportunity. Everything that you want to do can be achieved just inside of social media. I just have to switch your thinking about it, which I do. And then all of a sudden, the entire platform is like, has this harmony and this energy that now is attracting in more qualified prospects, converting them on the website. And now, when you have that platform working in a really sound way, that's when you launch the book. That's right when you have people's attention and it's humming. That's when you launch the book and you can experience 2 to 3+ X growth right in that moment, which means you have to be ready for it. So, part of the work that I do is to get people aligned with their monetization model to make sure that their internal operations are strong and ready for scale. Because everybody, that's a buzzword, everybody wants to scale. But if you're not ready for it, it can be very painful. So, my work isn't just about the website or the book launch, it's creating a healthy online business. And that's why it's so rewarding.
Hmm. That's really interesting. So let's turn this conversation just slightly to what do you think is one of your biggest factors in your company's success?
I think that it really comes down to how deeply we care. I mean, that's going to be my answer. Because people know that this isn't just transactional. From the very first moment that they have a touch point with me on email, they know it's different because I have gone and I've looked them up. I speak to something that, reached me in that email. They get into a conversation and I'm forward leaning, I'm smiling, I genuinely care. And they can tell it's nope, it's not BS, it's not a sales tactic. I choose to show up that way. So that's kind of our opening comments about being open. That matters to me. Even if somebody doesn't work with me, I want them to walk away feeling like they had a good experience, period. So after that, I'm detached from the outcome because I know karmically speaking, it will all come back in a good way anyway. And it does. That care can do more for that client than anything else at the end of the day. And that care is what gets them to want to share me as a resource to all of their friends and colleagues. So if anybody needs a website, anybody needs a book launch, you call Amber, call Amber, call Amber. And word of mouth has successfully grown my company for 15 years. I don't have to hope my next client's coming from Instagram. It might, great, but I'm not hoping for that. I just know if I show up and really treat people with care and genuine appreciation, they will take care of my business with me, right? We do it together because they want to see businesses like mine succeed. And I then again take that very seriously and want to give even more to them. And then I do. It's very reciprocal.
Okay, so that is not easy to scale. And we were talking about scaling just a minute ago. You were also talking about hiring. That care and concern that you have for your clients. So I'm curious, are you generally the face of the business with your clients? Do the people that are on your team, do they have that same level of care and concern? And how do you make sure and really this comes to one of the questions that I'm asking everybody on this CEO series. What is one question that you or your company, since you have a new CEO that's probably doing or COO that's doing this, what question do you like to ask when hiring, or how do you find that person that cares?
Well, I think care can be pretty obvious, right? I can tell when I'm in an interview if you are somebody who genuinely wants to help others or if you're just saying that to hope to get hired, right? I mean, I think you just know. I think it's pretty obvious, at least it is to me. And I want to work with people who really believe in helping others and sort of elevating the experience. My mom used to say, also growing up, leave the campground better than when you found it. And that's something that is a regular part of my leadership is I look at an email that Megan is sending and I've talked to her about leave this email better than when the client emailed you. So what can you do to brighten that person's day? And then Megan will think of something to brighten that person's day. That person then comes back, showers Megan with love and appreciation. And that positively reinforces Megan to then do it again. So now the next client comes in and Megan's all excited to improve that person's day. And guess what? It works. So then that person is like, Wes, feels so good. Positively reinforces that to Megan. This is human basics 101, right? We all want to feel good and heard and valued and seen. So if we can have our clients feel that way, they'll have us feel that way too,
Mm,
you know? And so that's really what I teach. I hire based on core values. So if you're somebody who believes in human connection, if you're somebody who believes in unwavering excellence, because don't mistake my kindness for doing sloppy work. No,
right.
no, it's got to be excellent work. I don't believe in perfection either, but we work very hard here and we have extremely high standards. And so if you don't fit that bill, you're just not going to enjoy your work here and it's just not going to be a fit. So I think in an interview process, you have to be very transparent about who you are and why that matters. Why does it matter to have unwavering excellence? Oh, because then if we have a reputation for doing what we say we're going to do, or even going above and beyond that, more people will feel, like they got the better end of the working relationship and they're going to spread word of mouth. So I think it's just transparency, being a good judge of character, hiring people that have the same passion that you do, and then consistent leadership to remind them of why we have these values and praising them when they achieve it. And then as a whole, you do get to scale because it's not just me for sure. It is a collective effort that has created the reputation that we have.
Mm. It's a culture. Yeah. So do you ask any questions that are about your values in the hiring process?
Yeah, sure. I will say though, Andrea, that I have no two interviews that are ever the same.
Oh,
Just like when I'm talking with the client, no two discovery calls are ever the same. No two client packages are ever the same. I am a very much in the moment based on who I see you are. I might poke and prod a little bit in different ways. So sure, I might ask them, what was a moment that, you experienced extreme pressure and, how did you handle that? And then what did you feel like on the other side? I mean, I could ask them those questions, but again, I feel like the one of my learnings in scaling up was that I did have to figure out some of those questions for other people to do the interviews because when I'm sitting in front of somebody, it's
it's
so
intuitive,
finely
isn't it?
tuned.
Yeah.
I can tell who somebody is right out of the gates and also how they've shown up in the interview process before they even get to me. Because there are several steps we've put in place before that interview. So I've pretty much, when I talk to people, I pretty much know that they're going to be hired.
Mm. What is your number one challenge as a CEO looking into 2023?
I think it's going to be people because people are funny and unpredictable. And, you know, people have never experienced this height of pressure and complexity, self included, right? I mean, the pressures of parenting on top of being a CEO and managing people and clients, and the pressures of volunteer in school and finances and how it all plays together. It's honestly remarkable what we are all faced with right now. And so for me, my number one is I have to have personal self care. I have to keep myself grounded and sane and clear and positive because otherwise I don't have a shot in the dark, right? So I know I prioritize my self care, but then I have to protect my team. And I really look at my team and it's my responsibility to look at how can I take care of them because it's not just about money. It's about how we're providing mental health support? How are we providing enough vacation time? How am I providing them creative benefits? How do I help them feel valued and a part of a greater mission? People's set of criteria for happiness is through the roof. It's astronomical at this point. And so just trying to be thoughtful about how you're touching on all of those different value sets it's a challenge, especially the more people that you have, the more complex it can become. So for me, I just want to continue to take care of myself and make sure that I'm hitting the marks and creating fulfillment in all of the variety of ways that my team needs so that we remain a strong, tight, cohesive, harmonious unit. And if I can achieve that, I know the rest will just naturally work out because of how great our offering is. And I don't say that with ego. It's 15 years in the making. Of course, it's going to be great. So I feel I have every confidence in what we're providing to our clients, and that word of mouth will continue as long as the ship remains tight on the inside. So I think that'll be everybody's challenge moving forward.
Mm. And you mentioned mental health. I mean, how do you, as a business leader, address mental health with your team?
I do it
Sorry,
all
my
day,
son.
every day.
You what? Sorry.
All day, every single day. Yeah. Because I know it's real. And I think that leaders who try to pretend it's not actually happening to your team just because they aren't coming to you with it, it's a mistake. Everybody on the planet is experiencing mental health challenges right now. Everybody. I really, truly believe that. And I don't even like using absolutes, but I really believe that everybody is facing this. And that's okay. I mean, the first step to anything is awareness. Now that we have awareness about it, what are we going to do about it? So I think for me, I wanted to normalize it. I didn't want it to create this atmosphere that if you're struggling, you're a loser and you can't handle it and you can't hang and it's your problem. Like, ugh, no. So what I do is I take a little bit of a Brene Brown approach, and that I'm honest, I'm vulnerable about my humanness, right? So if I'm struggling, what I'm not going to do is play victim. Because I don't believe in that. But what I am going to do is be really honest when I'm feeling pressured or when I'm feeling uncertain about something. I'm going to ask for the team's support and collaboration. And if I can create a safe space and sharing myself with them, then that's a really big step forward to them then trusting me with whatever is on their minds or hearts. And I love that first moment in a team member's journey where they really poke their head out and they share something personal with me that they're struggling with, just to see how I respond. And at the other end of that, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I'm so glad I can come to you with this. And I was not expecting that. I think there's still this fear of the old paradigm where they're going to get punished for being honest about something. Like, never in my company. So I think creating that safe space for them. And then another thing is I will just share resources when something really moved the needle for me, whether it be a podcast or a video. I'll openly share it. I also, since I think it was February of this year, I actually have a coach who comes in every Wednesday and does a 1 hour session with a team. It's optional. You can come or not come. And I don't have 100% of the team that comes in, but I have probably 70% of the team regularly, and people kind of come in and out. But on those Wednesday sessions, we openly talk about the subconscious and memories and triggers and reactions and how to fill your unmet needs and, keeping people balanced, giving them exercises, tools so that they can have their own self care. This is just being responsible, being aware. And I'm always surveying the team, asking them what other things can we put in motion for you. We have a whole wellness program we rolled out this year. We do yoga on team meetings sometimes, or we'll create meetings just for play and having fun. Like, I think that variety is also really important. So just a few things for other CEOs to think about.
Yeah, definitely. Those are really good examples. I love the having the coach come in and work with your team. That's something that we do too. We're leadership and organizational development. And so we're seeing this too. We're seeing it everywhere. Everybody is hurting. And I think I've always seen that in my life, and you just know people are struggling. There's always something else going on. It's a tough world out there, and it's tough inside. People are struggling with what they do with all of that. And are they abnormal, or, you know, just normalizing it, like creating that safe environment like you were talking about is so important. So great that you're doing that for your team.
You know, I keep talking about my mom an awful lot, but my mom took this business management class when I was really young, and the guy gave everybody one of those like red fragile stickers, that you
Oh,
put on post-it notes. And he recommended that everybody in the room put that on their forehead and walk around and meet each other as a way of saying, like, we are all fragile
oh,
human
I love.
beings. And I think that what's happened is because we're so scared and exhausted and lonely, we then put up this facade like it's like this armor, right? And F you and screw you if you're going to try to attack me, and it's like all of a sudden this like tension builds. And then people are making these reactions that are really ludicrous. And I'm not saying everybody is, but I think we've all had an experience in the last year of at least one person doing something that was like a head turner. Like, what? What was that about? Right. But I think in the inside, we're all just experiencing this and we don't know what to do with it. Right. And no amount of therapy is getting us to feel better as fast as we need it. Right. And so now with everything being virtual, we have twice the workload and less time. We're on 24/7. I mean, it's crazy out there, which kind of circles back again to how we started this conversation of just be aware that no matter who is saying what around you, they are fragile on the inside, just like you. Even if it doesn't seem like it, they are because they're human. So choose your response carefully because everybody is looking at you all the time. And I think if more people can stand up in consciousness and kindness and compassion, I don't think we would have nearly the amount of divisiveness that we can sometimes see.
Mm, so good, Amber. What insights or advice do you have for other CEOs who are working to grow exponentially, like even double their revenue? What do you have? What the thoughts do you have on this? Even though you weren't ever like intending to do that for yourself, I know that you've had a lot of experience.
Yeah, I would say just please make sure that you understand why you want that. People come to me all the time, Andrea, and they say, I want to be a New York Times bestselling author. And I say, great. Why? And they don't have an answer. Well, because, I wrote this book and that's what people do. That's not a good enough reason to go through that kind of a campaign. So why do you want that? And all of a sudden, when I challenge that goal, it turns out that they really could care less about the title. Cool. It would be a neat badge to have. But what I really want is I really want more of the right clients to work with. That's actually all I really want. Great. Well, let's solve for that. And it changes the whole dynamic of the conversation. So I think that a lot of people want to grow or want to build a course or want to fill in the blank because they think they should, right? Who would I be if I didn't want to scale to have 1,000 employees? What would that say about me? And I have to tell you, Andrea, that I wanted to scale the way I did because I wanted to know if I could. That was my reason. It wasn't about the awards that I got or the money or the accolades or the status. I don't care about those things. What I cared about is, was I capable of it?
Mm,
I like to know what I'm capable of. I like to know my potential and I like to push my absolute limits all the time. And when I am not that way, I'm not my best self. And so for me, I just wanted to know that I could. And that's a great reason to go ahead and do it. Now, when I got to the top of the mountain, I looked around and I thought, cool, I never want to do that again. So I'm going to change my business model and do something else. Um, I realized that in that climb up, I kind of got away from some of what I really enjoyed the most. And what I really enjoy more than anything is sitting in a Zoom room with somebody and just rocking their freaking world, man. Like just getting in there and helping their mindset and giving them a plan that nobody else could give them. And I know that. And I could actually help them get what they want. So like that to me is the most fulfilling thing I could think of when it comes to a profession. And what I was doing when I was at the peak, right, and getting the award is I was managing a bunch of people who always wanted more from me, and it was never enough. Even the good people that I hired, there was a lot of just pressure. Everybody wanted more. Like they were almost in competition to see who could get the most out of the company. And I thought, we're departing away from the work that matters. So for me, I wanted to go back. And by the way, we're still selling the exact same amount with maybe a third of the team. So having that awareness then shifted my mindset into how can I still have the same or more influence, but maybe start to step down from some of the team stuff that I wasn't enjoying. And all of a sudden, within 6 months, I figured that out. So now I'm like, okay, what else do I want to build? But you have to be very clear on what you want, but why, so that you don't find yourself in a Frankenstein business that you absolutely hate. Which happens a lot, unfortunately.
Mm. What do you see as one of the greatest opportunities for companies like yours in 2023? And I say like yours, but size wise.
Yeah, sure. I think it is operational efficiency, actually. I am working with a brilliant client right now. His name is Nick Sonnenberg, and he's the CEO of a company called Leverage. And he's coming out with a book in February that I love this book. It's so, so good. And what I'm seeing is that even if you think that you have your stuff really together and you're documented, you think you're using your tools correctly, it turns out you're probably not. And there's so much more that can be done to create efficiency on the inside. And when you create efficiency on the inside, all of a sudden you have more profit, which means that you have more stability and strength, you have more options. And that's what I'm really interested in right now. And I believe that, especially as a lot of other companies are going to continue to wrestle with some of the just employee challenges that they're facing right now based on what's happening culturally. I would say that this is an opportunity for you to figure out how to weather any storm that comes ahead. So really make sure you understand your tool stack, making sure that you are tracking your efficiency internally. Because for us, that was a tough thing to measure there for a while, but then I kind of solved that, and now I understand how to measure that better. And it was really pretty mind blowing to see how much profit was on the table by me not tracking the way that I could have. So I think that's going to be a really important piece for CEOs to focus on in the future.
Mm. Well, right along those lines, then building the organizational infrastructure to handle growth. So you cut back instead of continuing to build on that organizational infrastructure. I'm wondering if you have any additional insights into kind of the problems that you faced in that process of trying to figure out what you wanted that structure to be, and what have you done well? Like what has your company done well in that process?
It was really, really tough for me to, first of all, have the awareness that we weren't efficient because I thought we were. I was operating up here.
Yeah.
And the problem was way deep down in the depths of the ocean. And so I just simply didn't have that. I didn't see what was going on down there. And at the time, a lot of people kept saying, yep, we're doing good, doing great, great, great. I'm like, okay, well, I'm asking questions. Everybody's telling me it's good. So it must be good, right? Until it wasn't. And the numbers don't lie. And so there was this moment of realizing like our numbers are way skewed from where they were just 2 months ago. What's up with that? And when I peeked under the hood and then under that hood and under that, and all the layers down, um, it was really tough to see what was really happening, and there was just bloat that was happening. And I know that it came from a good place, right? There were a lot of people in the company who were just they were so focused on the customer experience, which is what I wanted, that they were going so far above and beyond scope that now the company is paying for all kinds of work to get done that we didn't get payment for. And so to me, I see at the top, like our customers are happy, the team is good, where everything's great, but the numbers don't lie. And all of a sudden, our profits started getting eaten away. And I'm like, where is this coming from? So it took me a little bit to figure out, that it was actually coming from a good place that bad things were happening. And that was like a huge shock to me. So I would say when that happened, it was kind of at this awareness of like growing up and looking at the top of the mountain, thinking like, is this how I want to spend my time? When do I feel most joyful? Well, it's not when I'm trying to solve for this, it's when I'm on the client calls. So it was all happening at one time, Andrea. But I would say that this awareness kind of, again, kind of pushed me into what would I really want. And it wasn't to manage a huge team. We had a team of 40 people at that time, and now it's a team of 16. We're selling the exact same amount
Mm.
and we're profiting a lot more.
Yeah.
So to me, it was just taking a look at things I didn't want to look at, right? Leaning in and then thinking, okay, what's the way around this? How do we really more clearly define what scope is? How can I educate that yes, we want to have a good customer experience, but I also now can train the team to be fiercely protective of the budget because all of the raises that they want and all the benefits that they always want and all the things that they always want, where does that come from? So then educating them like it comes out of our profit. It's not that Amber's going on shopping sprees every weekend. It's that this is where that fun stuff comes from that you ultimately want. So then educating them to be on the other side of the line with me. Now the whole business is operating very differently.
Mm. Really good stuff, Amber. Okay, so before I ask my last question, why don't you share with us where we can find your business and
Yeah.
any I guess you online as well.
I'm everywhere. Those SEO rankings from way back in the day. Well, since my last name is impossible to say, spell, and remember, you could also just Google Amber
Vilhauer.
B.
I've
I
got
told
it.
Andrea, like, you're one of the only ones that got it right. I'm not even kidding. So I bought amberv.com just to try to help people out. So
All
that's
right, all
one
right.
option. But NGNG Enterprises is the best place to go because that's the company website where you can get to know all of the other amazing authors and speakers and coaches and consultants that we work with, not just authors. So we have a whole side of the business of people that aren't authors. But if you feel like you really want to figure out what is the right model for you, how to be more efficient when it comes to presenting online and be more aligned so that you're more authentic in your communication, attracting in more of the right people, then go check my stuff out. I also have so many videos on YouTube, it's crazy. And I'm on all the social networks. So you're pretty easy to find if you want to say hi.
Okay, great. All right, so my last question for you is what last piece of advice would you want to give somebody who would like to be a voice of influence?
Keep going and trust yourself is what I would say. No guts, no glory too. But, getting your vision out there, getting up every single day, it's not for the faint of heart. I mean, it is tough being a business owner, and especially in today's economy and with today's pressures, right? So I see you and I say, keep going. If you have that passion in your heart to experience options, you want freedom, you want to have pave your own way, it's worth it. But keep going even on the days where it's kicking you in the butt. And trust yourself. There's a lot of people out there who are going to tell you what you should be doing. But at the end of the day, this is your business and you know what's right for you. So please trust that voice inside because you were gifted that voice for a reason.
Mm. Thank you so much for being a voice of influence for our listeners today, Amber. Appreciate it.
Yeah, this was fun. Thank you, Andrea.